good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Still Saved Show, where we sit down with some of the dopest and coolest individuals who have some of the most inspiring stories of change and transformation you have ever seen or heard in your existence. And boy, do I have a story for you today. That's right. I'm yours truly, Just Dave. And I have, let's see, where can I start, man? Stella Award winner, right? Dove Award winner, Grammy nominated, just recently received the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award, right? World renowned table tennis
Wow,
guru.
You dug deep.
You feel me?
Yeah.
I got my homie Brian Courtney Wilson in the building.
What's up? What's up?
What's going down, man? When we gonna hop on the ping pong?
I've never saw a ping pong table I didn't like either, too. So if you got one around here, we can go.
We can go at
handle
it.
up on it.
Look,
yeah.
I'm not good at all, man. So the only thing I'm good for is making you feel good about your game.
Thanks for having me too,
man.
Dave.
The pleasure is all mine, man. I really appreciate you waking up and kicking it with me. Nice.
Eventually, huh?
Yeah. See, I wasn't gonna tell nobody. I promise I wasn't gonna say nothing.
Yeah, I was supposed to be here 30 minutes ago.
But you're here now.
Yeah,
man.
we're here now.
You're here now.
Yeah,
In addition
don't
to
live in the past,
man. In addition to the ping pong, I hear you also go hard on the court too, man.
I do. I love to play basketball, man. I really do.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite games to play. And one of the reasons that I see a lot of life in it. You know,
Yeah.
it requires you got to discipline your body.
Come on.
Then you got to discipline your mind. Then you have to kind of go with the flow because it's a team sport and everyone else is doing the same thing, hopefully, and everyone brings strengths and weaknesses to the court, and you got to figure out a way to make those work without stepping on people's egos, literally stepping on people's toes. You get called for fouls and things like that, and to me that's like life, and so that's why I've always just loved the game and love watching it, and I really love when it's played well.
Come on. Come on.
So
yeah.
That's
I mean, I know you're a Houston head or a transplant, but you're from Chicago, so I know you love the Bulls.
Of course, I love the Bulls. I grew up watching Michael Jordan do his thing. I watched him overcome adversity to get to the level that he attained. And I've seen some great basketball here in Houston.
Come on.
And I just, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a fan, period.
Leave it to Brian Courtney Wilson to dig deep, like in the first 5 seconds of the interview on some basketball stuff.
I do stay there.
Nah, man, basketball definitely is inspiring, man. I was super happy when my son wanted to. Now, that's one thing I can actually get with you on, all right? I may not be able to see you on. Oh, man, come on. Listen.
Okay, that's what's up.
Growing up in the SWAT,
Yeah.
me and Toby used to go at it back in the day.
I heard.
But no, man, I had that jumper, so.
Really?
I can't jump though. I'm a typical white kid, no hops. But
you can shoot it, huh?
See me on that 3-point line though.
We talking about Tobe. He got a big following over there in the SWAT.
Oh,
so
yeah,
one
for
of the
sure.
guys I used to hang out with him back in the day.
Yeah.
Ace and D, and they can really, really play.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, just keep me on the 3-point line.
all right,
We gonna go.
What's up? You see Steve Kerr over there.
There you go, man. But man, you've been busy lately. I saw you the other day at the Texas chapter for the Academy. Y'all had a good time the other night. I saw some really cool folks step out. Bun B, Yolanda, Toby, like we just named.
Yeah,
Paul.
it was a beautiful event. I've been working with them. I served as a governor for about 4 years. Took a step back, focused on this latest record we have out. And one of the songs from the record I sent to the executive director, and she heard it. She said she was in tears, like listening to it, and wanted me to come and sing it that night for the party. So that was a blessing.
Which record was it?
It's called Always Peace.
Okay, so we're gonna hold off on that, all right?
Sure.
Because we're gonna talk about that record.
Sure.
All right, that's definitely one of my joints. Before we do though, I gotta say something before we start talking about the whole album, the project, and the inspiration. This is just me, all right? This is just Dave, okay? All right, you, my friend, all right, sir, you are responsible for more tears flowing down my face than any Usher R&B break your heart record you could ever imagine. Especially So Proud and Worth Fighting For.
Yeah.
Those two records, I don't think I could listen to either one of those records without crying. And I'm not exaggerating, bro. Like every time they come on, I gotta go hide somewhere in the corner and let it out.
I praise God. Tell me what that feels like for you though when you say that, because a lot of people get uncomfortable dealing with that type of emotion.
I used to, obviously as a man, growing up on the southwest side of Houston, Texas, A lot of people know my past, selling drugs and doing a lot of crazy stuff. You know, crying was looked at as a thing of weakness, right?
Yeah.
But as I got saved and I realized like what Jesus had done for me and what he had protected me from, because all my partners, like they either dead or locked up, right? My father, same thing. And when I think about how far he's brought me,
Yeah.
and I think about that when I listen to those records, right? Especially Worth Fighting For. You know, Worth Fighting For, you reference your family. And I got 5 kids, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I just think about how God has kept me over the years, bro. And I'm not ashamed to let it out. I'll cry watching The Lion King if you come down to it. You know what I'm saying? It feels good because I'll tell you this. Life Jennings once said, crying is like taking your soul to the laundromat.
Yeah.
And you've taken me to the laundromat quite a bit over the years.
Praise God. I just wanted to hear you articulate it because with you, you know, sometimes it is, people view it as weakness, you know, especially men. And I think the times I've done it, and I've done it often, especially when we were first putting out Worth Fighting For, and I had considered the amount of grace and favor I had been shown that I could not articulate. I couldn't put words to it, but I knew I was seeing it. I knew I was in the middle of it. There was a sense of joy connected to it with those tears.
Yeah.
And there was a sense of joy that I wished everybody could feel.
Yeah.
And I still pray it. I pray that God overwhelms everyone I encounter in ways that make them want to cry in public. And so it's gratifying to hear you talk about the music and how it made you do that.
Yeah.
And that's all we're trying to do. Well, that's all I'm trying to do is help people see God in those ways.
Right.
That overwhelm, that surprise, that like right when you were at the end of your rope, you're like, yo, but wait a minute, I got hope. I could see. You hear what I just said? I think I just dropped the bar.
Come on. I had to write that one down real quick.
But yeah, that's what we're trying to do, man, because that's the way God has been revealed in my life.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody has degrees to their story and what they've done and where they've been and the pain they've experienced. But at the end of the day, we have all needed this grace to keep moving forward.
Yeah. And I can clearly see that it's more than just lyrics and melody. You know, there's a heart. I mean, not to be cheesy or cliche, but there's an anointing behind it, right? It's like, and when you say overwhelmed, that is the word. Every time I've encountered that moment or that emotion, it's an overwhelming emotion because it's not always sadness. Looking back, it's like you said, it's joy, it's gratefulness, it's thankfulness, man. And I just wanted to tell you that personally.
Thank you.
All right, so all them tears over the years, like
thank you.
I'll probably put it on in the car later on this afternoon and take my soul to the laundromat.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for saying so.
But let's do this, man. Let's transition.
That's what's up. I see what you did. This
no
man is
pun
a pro.
Yeah, man. I was waiting on that all day. You got a new album out, man.
Yeah.
And it is fire.
Thank you.
The visuals on it, because you got every track has its own video on YouTube.
Yes,
I've been able to watch it. As a creator myself, I really appreciate the just the visuals that you guys created to go along with it. I saw some of my homies in there, Tyrone and David Michael Wyatt.
Oh, yeah, man. He's great guys.
Yeah.
Great guys. Been riding with me for a minute and doing their own thing, too. And so that was an extension of favor and grace to me that they were even available and willing to be a part of what we were doing. Everybody in that room, world-class musicians, singers, could have easily stood in my spot and led. And so I've just learned down through the years to recognize that. Recognize just how much grace you have even finding a parking spot when you're trying to get somewhere. Because first of all, you didn't build the parking structure, right? You didn't build the car that you're using to get there. These are all extensions of grace and all reasons to be thankful because you don't really know the cost. You know what you paid, but you don't really know the cost.
Yeah, especially when you get that first parking spot. That's the one. That's the one. You know, like, man, that's supernatural grace right there, boy.
Exactly.
But talk to me a little bit about the project, man. We can dive deep into some of the tracks as we go through it, but tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind the entire project as a whole, and then maybe we can kind of dive deeper into some of the tracks as we go on.
I wanted to capture an exchange again between some great musicians and singers who I thought could facilitate a musical conversation, if you will. And we wanted to record it live. We wanted to capture visuals of the recording. I did not want an audience because I wanted it to be very intimate. And I'll keep trying to find the right word for it. Sometimes with an audience, you feel compelled to play to an audience. And I did not want to do that in this case. I kind of wanted us to really focus on one another, and not just while we were singing, but in our exchanges with one another, talking around the water cooler, if you will, and during breaks and things like that, and while we were learning our parts. And that was one of the gratifying things for me too, was that people got it.
Yeah.
And they said this was one of the best experiences that they ever had. It's rooted in the Black music tradition. It's rooted in the Black sacred music tradition. But all are welcome, and I really wanted to get at that. I got a great compliment the other day. A friend called me, a colleague that's been in gospel for a while, and said, man, I'm listening to your record. I don't know whether to shout, to cry. I don't know whether to run around this house. You know what I mean? And that's what I wanted more than anything. I wanted you to feel something, and I wanted it to feel good. And prayerfully, if it feels good enough, you'll lean in long enough to catch some of the messages that we're attempting to share.
No, 100%, 100%. And I can kind of, as I watched a lot of the records on YouTube, I could see that exchange.
Yeah,
I could see you looking over at the musicians, or I could see Tyrone talking to you with the keys, and he'll talk to you outside of the keys too. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I could see that unity, that synergy, right? And it was a beautiful thing, man.
Thank you for saying so. In fact, that's what I hope people see when they see the record too, is that, the songs are written for the project, save for some ones that I previously recorded but wanted to treat live. But we were kind of watching how they were developing in the moment. And some of that is us responding to like, oh, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
And we weren't certain, because we were kind of working in our own silos to make sure everything was going to be right. Shout out to Dana Saray, our producer out of Delaware, who helped lead us in that regard, and Daniel Johnson, who helped lead our singers in that regard. So, man, I keep going back to this word, man. It was an expression of grace to me in that moment. And so I'm prayerfully it translates to people when they hear it.
Yeah. So tell me, what does that mean to you? Because you've said it a couple times, right? An expression of grace. How have you experienced that in your life as of late?
We have a song called You Make Me Rich. It's not on this record. It's on my Great Work record. When I Receive Your Grace. And what I mean by that is you can always afford to take the next step, even though there are times when you feel like you've messed up and you can't afford to rebuild. You can't afford to repair. You can't afford to get over whatever has sullied your reputation to a certain extent. And I'm saying, no, if you're still breathing, that's still God voting on you, right? And that vote means more than anyone else saying no. That vote for you. But you have to take the steps. You gotta move forward. You gotta keep showing up. You gotta shake off shame. Even when you're supposed to be there 30 minutes before that time, you got to at least try to see, can I show up? And then when you show up, you got to have your head up so you can really see where your help is coming from. Sometimes, I think our enemy tries to get you to hang your head low, so you'll miss who's really with you. And what I mean when I say that this was an extension of grace is that I know these people have worked with people all over the world. I know that their time is valuable, their talents are valuable, but they decided to come hang with me for this moment. And all I had was a few songs and a willingness to sing them. And so that's what I mean.
Yeah. Man, I love how humble you are, man. I love how down to earth and human. You know what I'm saying? Over the years, you never let the awards and the accolades take you to a dimension that disconnects you from humanity.
Let me ask you this.
Come on. We're going to switch it up. Next week, when AV takes a break, you better make sure you pull up.
So what do you mean when you say that, though?
What do you mean?
What do you typically see?
Well, when you typically see, and I hate to say this, even in our gospel community, not necessarily knowledge puffs, but the boasting tends to put people on another level. And we tend to disassociate ourselves with our friends, our families, our relationships, our connections in a way that makes us untouchable and unrelatable. But I've never felt, in the few interactions that we've had, I never felt that I wasn't able to connect with you, right? As a human, as a friend, as a colleague, and even as a fan. Like, I'm gonna be real with you, I'm a fan. You know what I'm saying?
You.
So, but I love how, like, even when you were talking about the artists and the musicians, you were like, hey man, these guys could have been anywhere in the world, but they're here with me. They're here with me.
It's the truth though. And so I guess when I ask the question, it's like, sometimes I wonder if I'm too humble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was watching this post the other day someone made about the church and how I don't know that we brag enough on ourselves and about what we do, you know? Now I know I'm being super philosophical.
No, I got something for you. Keep going though. Keep going.
But I wonder sometimes, because I've had that remarked about me before, well, man, maybe I should be doing more of the puff stuff so people don't have to read their mind about what's on my mind and what the value I bring. Because I don't want you to take what I'm saying as, man, I can sing.
Come on.
And we had some great songs when I came in to sing them, you know what I mean? And you don't want to be discounted for what you bring to the table either, you know what I'm saying? But according to my faith, I want to say it's in Philippians where it talks about this. We're supposed to regard our brother more than we regard ourselves. And I don't see how we make it if we don't learn to start doing it. If we don't learn to start making room for the people around us. So when we get around the feet of God, we all have what we need to take that next step. Those are extensions of grace, where the little bit I have in my hand is a miracle in somebody else's hand if I bring it to the table.
If you bring it to the table.
If I bring it to the table.
If you bring it to
which
the table.
would require some humility. Because some people come to the table and it's like elbowing their way, everybody.
Right, make room.
You know, make room. Right? And everywhere you sit is the head of the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really,
I look at it like this, man. You know, love our Rockets, right? I've been to several games. I remember growing up, never could really afford to sit courtside or even on the lower, right? Again, growing up in the SWAT, we were somewhat limited, but we would always find a way to kind of sneak our way down, right?
Right.
And the most embarrassing thing in the world, though, is to get caught. And to make that walk of shame back up the stands to where you're supposed to be sitting.
Right.
And I believe there's a parable in the Bible that talks about that. It ain't the Rockets game.
Get invited.
We need to be invited to that seat at the table. Don't take that prestigious seat. Take the seat in the back, because it feels a whole lot better when you're invited up front versus getting kicked out to the back, right? So
and for grace to trust that seat in the back is right where you're supposed to be right now. Some of us get anxious about where we're sitting, you know, as if, man, if I don't figure out a way how to get out of here, I'm not going to make it. And I think sometimes our God, in his kindness towards us, has us right where we need to be, in proximity to where we want to be, while he builds character in us, while he shows us where God can be revealed right where we are. So I love that. I love that analogy. And I could keep talking about that, but
listen, I
don't know if it's good.
Again, we're going back to basketball, man. So many life lessons can be learned in the book of basketball. Transitions, though, man. Transitions. That title, and I don't know if this was a part of the inspiration or the message behind the actual project itself, but I see you a man of transition, right? I look at your career, your life, and how you came from a corporate background, right? We both share a similar, career in pharmaceuticals. I think that just yours was sanctioned and certified and legal. You were actually in corporate America working for Johnson & Johnson, right?
Probably paid more taxes.
Yeah, you probably did. I didn't. Oh, by the grace of God. But you came from corporate America. You got your start working for Johnson. You did a lot of different things in Chicago, came to Houston. That transition, from corporate America to technically a musician, is an entrepreneur.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No question.
What type of mindset did it take, and faith and trust and fear was involved in that transition?
The fear.
Come on.
That's you're overcoming that all the time. You keep overcoming it, to be honest. I never forget, I was in this room when I was sitting next to a colleague who told me someone I was looking up to, and I thought, man, you made it. And she kind of said, well, I've made it here, but it never stops feeling like you're walking on water. It never stops feeling like, I got to take these next steps by faith. It never, the yes you say to God in this moment that leads to the miracle that you were looking for leads to another opportunity to say yes if you want to keep going and keep walking, lest you become comfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't believe God is in the comfortable.
Yeah.
God is in those spaces where you're continually reaching for more of God's power to get to where God wants you to be. And so there were days that were filled with anxiety. In fact, my record still was about that, just being honest about how there are times I've been anxious and times I haven't been honest about it because I didn't feel like I had the permission to be honest about it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes what you do is you mask it and you come up with coping mechanisms and you build bridges trying to mask that fear instead of just being honest and breathing.
Let's be honest though, because Johnson & Johnson is a big company, right? I'm sure salary was decent. I'm sure, benefits, probably 401k, pension, all the cool stuff, the benefits, right? It's hard to walk away from that into the music industry that's not as secure.
You know what was funny? I was miserable.
Ooh.
And so I had no choice. What's hard was trying to explain it to people who loved me and who had, they gotten used to seeing me a certain way. Some of them were dependent upon the life that I was living. And then I was disrupting that. So that's what made it hard. And then you're looking at their faces and you're like, man, is this going to work? Am I going to be able to get to some place of stability doing this? And that made it hard. And then you considering your ego. You've made these choices, these public choices to step out on faith, and it doesn't always look like you're walking on the water. It looks like you're flailing and barely avoiding drowning. That adds to the weight of the whole thing. So you're right on it, man. It was a step that was tough to walk away from in terms of that corporate comfort, but I had to do it.
Yeah.
Anything else would have made me miserable later.
Yeah.
When I look back over it, the peace that I have now would not have been there.
No, for sure.
If I hadn't taken that step.
But it's hard to see that peace in those moments.
No way.
Right. It takes a lot of faith. And so in the early years during the transition, were there times when you wanted to U-turn?
No question. Man, them first 3 months, I think I went back and got a job somewhere. And I did. I went and got the job, but I was terrible at the job.
Yeah.
And it was another reminder that, just walk this out. Walk it out. Thank God for a church like St. John's United Methodist Church. My friend, Pastor Rudy Rasmus down there.
Absolutely.
Who made room for me on stage to kind of find my voice, find my footing, if you will, figure out what was most important to me about my ministry, and get a picture of who I would be serving later down there at this church, at the intersections of demographic and economic levels that span some people having to sleep on the steps of their church the night before and other people coming in from palatial mansions to gather and see God together. Pastor Rudy, Pastor Juanita, man, over the last 30 years have made that type of room for several different people. And I spent about 4 years there as their music minister, running into people like David Michael Wyatt, people like Daniel Johnson, who circling back, end up helping me pull this last recording off. That's what I mean when I say it was an expression of grace.
Come on.
Because I was sitting there on their grace.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have met those people if I hadn't spent that time there. But I couldn't see that that's what the plan was. And so to anybody listening, man, you're right in the middle of your blessing. Oh, for eyes to see it. I hope you can see it. And even if you can't, I just hope you take the next step. Yeah. Take the next step in love. Take the next step anxious for nothing. Please claim this peace that surpasses all understanding. That's what I mean. There's a peace that surpasses all understanding. Meaning, you can have peace in this moment, even when the circumstances dictate that you shouldn't. Keep moving forward and trust that the Lord is going to have your back. That's all I can say.
Come on.
That's the first song.
Yeah.
And if you listen to that first song on the record, all I can say, I'm laying it out, that there were times I made wrong turns and the Lord made them right. Because I didn't stop.
Yeah.
I kept walking on this pilgrim journey, this journey to see God.
Yeah,
that's what we on. That's what we all on. Whether you acknowledge it or not. We're all on this journey to see the power that's fueling our lives and moving us forward. And I want everybody under the sound of my voice to hear it, and so you can feel this bliss that compels you to cry in public.
Come on. Okay, because that happened.
With joy.
That happened. You remember Praise in the Park? I was like DJing and taking pictures and doing all. I was supposed to be working, and for a second, I don't know if you looked over. I was like,
man, I love it. That's what I want, man.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
Yeah, I had to take a break. Well, listen up. We're gonna take a quick break right now.
Yes, sir.
As we transition into the second half, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you just joining us, I'm kicking it with my homie Brian Courtney Wilson. We're talking about his new album, Transitions: Life and Extensions of Grace. It is going down. You're rocking with the Still Saved Show, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Still Saved Show. I'm your host, Just Dave. No titles, no gimmicks, just a regular dude from the SWAT. You know what I'm saying? And I'm here with my good friend Brian Courtney Wilson, and we have been breaking down the breakthrough of this God-given transition. And he decided to name his album after.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So I appreciate you kicking it with me.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. So let's get back to these transitions.
Will you say Courtney one more time, but put a hard T on it?
Yeah.
Because if you don't put the T there, it's corny, and so it's like it doesn't really serve.
It don't serve the same purpose. Like Brian Courtney Wilson, you gotta emphasize the T. That's an old choir trick too, right? You know what I'm saying?
You gotta put the hard T on there.
Brian Courtney Wilson,
yes,
ladies and gentlemen. Got you, baby. Gotta
Yeah.
put the T on it.
I didn't want to lose the cats from the SWAT.
No. Oh no. We still got love for you. You've been making us cry for a minute. Don't worry. Thugs cry too. Man, so let's talk about these transitions, man. Before we came back, you were telling me how you overcame the fear of leaving the comfort of corporate America, right? And the security of those jobs because you had to. You were miserable, right? And you just knew that God had something greater, something more. And that helped kind of fuel all the records you've put out, but especially this one with the transitions. What's one of your favorite records on this project?
Well, to be clear, I love them all. I love them all because
it's like your kids.
Yeah, and they tell a story. This is probably more than any other project I've done, where what I want to say, who I want to say it to, has coalesced with the resources I need to get it done, with the vision, to really manifest the vision. And I listen to this project over and over again because it orients me. It orients me to, why I got started, the reasons why I've been sustained, what it will take to keep going. And so when you ask what my favorite is, similar to when I was growing up in church and was made to go. Yeah. And I had to listen to songs that I didn't really understand until I got older. Every blessing is that for me. Like if you were going to introduce someone to the faith, introduce your children to what it would take to make it later, I would start with making sure they heard every blessing and understanding that sometimes you are in your blessing, but you don't recognize it because of the pain and the pressure and the confines that you feel in the moment. But those confines are building character. That pain sometimes is supposed to produce power later because you endured it. It's supposed to teach you to be faithful before you can see what's going on around you. You talked about like overcoming the fear to leave. It didn't always feel like that. It felt like I was being compelled to something that I feared the whole time. I cannot say that it ever stopped being this feeling of anxiousness that I had. What you get to is a place of peace because you kept going, you saw the harvest come from the seeds that you planted along the way. And then along the way, you'll have people tell you that they're benefiting from the fruit of your harvest, even before you see it.
Yeah.
You're leaving, you're getting a return that other people are benefiting from, and those stories will fuel your moving forward. but you still might have to deal with that pain getting up. And I'm talking about that specifically because I don't want you to front in the moment as if you're not. And I don't want you to disqualify yourself because you are. I don't want you to have shame because you're afraid in the moment. Man, take the step.
Yeah.
Keep taking that step. Take it even when you're trembling, because he is our strength and weakness. God is our strength and weakness. And you'll find that out if you take those steps of faith.
Man, no, I think that's so powerful, because a lot of times, and we see that in our society with some of the, devastating news of suicide and depression and just lots of things. I have experienced something very similar like that in my own life. And we don't like to be honest about, hey, we're in the moment and we're scared, especially as men, husbands, fathers, and we have people that we're responsible for, or leaders and business owners. And it's not to say that women are exempt, because they go through it too.
Not.
You know what I'm saying?
We all
but
going
that
through
fear will sometimes cripple you.
It'll cripple you. Your responses to it can isolate you because you're responding in toxic ways to people around you that are supposed to be in community with you.
Yeah.
While you guys help each other move forward. But because you're not being honest about where you are, or they're not being honest about where they are, or you guys are not using the grace to be patient with one another as you find the words to communicate clearly where you are.
Yeah.
And see God in each other's face, it can isolate you.
Yeah.
And, we got to get to a place where we understand that we all need room around Jesus' feet, speaking to the song, Always Peace, that we're all trying to move somewhere, that we're all in transition.
Come on.
And we all have the possibility of switching lanes in someone's blind spot, so to speak, right? You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you got to have grace for where you might have sideswiped someone on the way to where they were going, or vice versa. You didn't even know. I didn't know that I caused that type of damage, right? I cannot tell you over the span of 20, 30 years, getting to this record, the blessing it has been to find out that there were some people I offended and I had no idea that they were holding on to it that way.
Say that one more time. You said it was a blessing.
It's a blessing
to find out about an offense. Like, unpack that for me.
Well, because I had the opportunity to apologize.
Come on.
And repent. And at first, some of the people I apologized to, they were like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. And then I said, no, it's not. It wasn't okay. And then I could see the tears flowing, because they had permission to say to themselves, no, that wasn't okay. And that wasn't something I just had to get over. It's something that needed to be repaired. And sometimes we move forward without the repair.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of limping along. We're limping along, and it's getting harder. We're getting more afraid because this ain't going the way it needs to be. When an apology or a clear communication 10 years ago, as opposed to waiting 20 and it just happens to come up, could have fixed things, could have started repair.
Yeah. I have my son has a basketball coach who needed knee surgery, right? He was a superstar athlete in his prime, and he's a phenomenal coach, but he needed knee surgery for a very long time. As matter of fact, when he went to the surgeon and the doctors, they were like, I don't know how you even walking right now.
Wow.
And he would be up and down the court with the kids. He wasn't like the fastest, obviously, because he needed knee surgery. It was slowing him down. It was prohibiting him from doing and performing at his best, but he was still getting up at it. The moment he got that knee surgery done, he's on like a whole nother level. Wow. But can you imagine, the years that he went through suffering and enduring and thinking that I just had to suck it up? And
you got me.
Right.
You understand.
Had he just gotten the knee surgery, years ago, it's unbelievable. But now pain-free and able to walk and run and jump.
So now I want to encourage somebody that's listening who, okay, you're hurting in your heart. You're hurting in your mind. And you don't really have the words for how to handle it. I want to encourage you, take that next $100 you have, take that next $75 you have, go talk to a therapist. Go talk to somebody who is paid to help you find words for the path that you're on right now, for the way you feel right now. You don't have to keep limping along.
You don't.
With that. There are people who have dedicated their lives to helping you see it clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
You
and
know
I
what
would
I mean?
also go a step further and say consult with your employer. A lot of people's jobs have these EAP programs where you can get a couple sessions for free.
Man,
You know?
I love that you said that. There's so many resources around us, and because we just didn't know, we didn't know the question to ask to get to the resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
We never access them.
Mhm.
All the more reason why we have to be in community, because
Come
there
on.
are people that can help you see what's in your blind spot. But if you are not in community fitted the right way, they won't do it.
No.
You know what I mean?
You know, straight up, I know.
They might do it and you didn't even hear them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you're not connected.
You're not
and
connected.
plugged in.
Plugged in the right way. What connects us? It's the
Ooh.
grace. It's the grace. That's what
Yeah,
that
man.
connects us. Am I talking right? I feel like
Oh,
I'm talking
come on,
right
man,
now.
bro.
We're
You,
coming to it.
you on point, man.
Yeah.
You talking to me.
Yeah.
You are literally talking to me. But I want to go back to Always Peace.
Talk to me.
That record is special. I almost got this sense that you were praying your way through that record. Like I can see, at least I can pray that back. I don't necessarily have to join in song. I could put that joint on and that could become a prayer of mine. Like I was doing that in the car on my way over here. You know what I'm saying? And I think towards the end of the record, you was getting at it, right? And you were like compelling people to join you in connecting with God. Did you ever envision that happening?
I did. I mean, I'm smiling because I'm thinking about how many of these songs, once I started to see it, drove me to tears.
Yeah.
Because I could see the potential for it in community once we shared it together. And, it's rooted in a tradition in the Black church where we would give a benediction before we left. And that benediction was a blessing, that the Lord watch over us and keep us and while we're absent, assuming that we would gather again soon.
Lord willing.
What I wanted to say with the song in this season is that I think there are times when we have surrendered our ability to speak to atmosphere, to speak blessing to one another, to speak peace over the lives of the people we encounter. Even if we don't understand all that they're going through, I think we would do ourselves a favor if we assume that everybody we are encountering is going through some type of a storm, that we have the power to speak peace over, to loose grace in, to speak favor towards, not just towards them, but then to receive it back. And then there's this picture in my mind of us all having room around the feet of God, because we needed to have that room.
Yeah.
Because the Lord is extending grace and favor and peace towards us. And a lot of times, at least what I've seen in the ether, so to speak, is where, you got people claiming to be Christian, but then you got to be a certain way to sit next to them. You know what I mean? You can't come with this sin. You can't come presenting this way. You can't be woke out here talking about your injustices and how you want to protest and be a Christian like I'm a Christian. I don't think that's the way.
Right.
I think we all got to get around the feet of Jesus. And when we get around the feet of Jesus, this proximity to God and God's grace and God's mercy and God's love is going to help us see one another clearly and see how we are family and supposed to help one another. Yeah. Not like super Christians.
Yeah.
But I got to see the faith. You got to see the faith. We got to see the faith. We're going to plant these seeds and we're going to manifest the kingdom together.
I like that word you use though, proximity. You know what I'm saying? Proximity is something that I man, when it comes to God, it says draw near to him and he will draw near to you, right? And you got on glasses, so I have on contacts right now, so we know what it is to not be able to see from far away. But the closer you get, the more things become in focus, right? And I really think that the closer we get to God, the more we try to draw near to him, he promised that he would draw near to us.
So these are called transition lenses.
Ooh.
And I haven't always needed them.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much I needed them until I put them on, looking at my phone. Like I was looking at my phone and kind of resisting how the Lord was, my life was transitioning because I was getting older. And I was getting to a season where I had to have these glasses to see clearly. You know how sometimes you don't want to admit it, though. The things that are limiting you because of age.
Yeah.
That's part of what this record is about too, is accepting that seasons change and having the courage to let go of what's gone on before and lean into what's next, believing that your latter will be greater. But you won't see it clearly if you're not willing to change your filter, so to speak, and admit that I might not be seeing this clearly right now. And I'm gonna tell you, I look at my phone sometimes. If I take these off and I try to read this and I put these on, I'm almost giddy laughing at the difference and at how long it took me to transition to wearing these frames. And so that's part of what we're talking about too, man, is just having the courage to let go of the past. Move forward, you know. Anyway.
From a practical standpoint though, like that's so dope. That's so deep. What are some practical lenses or tools that you use to make sure that everything's in focus for you spiritually, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you, is it...
Great question. Breathing.
Come on.
You have to breathe deeply. You have to learn. So one of the things I had to learn was how much tension I was keeping in my body, starting with my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny. It started with, I was getting voice lessons. People were making observations on the basketball court, like really good basketball players were watching my form, but they pointed out to me, man, you're not making a shot because your shoulders are too tense. And so starting to make those connections, on the way to faithfulness, like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm getting nuggets dropped to me, that as I put them together, it was building out the picture. So to answer your question, practical application, keep going. Off the top. Keep going. Even if it's blurry, don't stop. Keep going. Build relationship. And what I don't mean is build, sometimes we meet people and we always trying to figure out, well, how can they help me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying build relationship and just be.
Yeah.
Let them just be. Really listen when conversations are had. Maybe take a little longer sometimes in the interaction, and don't assume that you see what you're seeing, because there may be a conversation, a little thing you say that's a miracle to them. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. That's what I needed, the answer I needed. Build relationships so people can be close enough to you to point out where you might be having some tension in your shoulders that you could let go.
Come on.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm following you.
It's so I'm laughing because the guy that told me that has known me for 15 years.
Yeah, like you just not telling me.
He's a master basketball player, but he's never told me that. And when he said it, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. And so that's what I mean. It takes time sometimes to get to these places where you get the answer you need to move forward. So you got to be patient in relationship. You got to forgive and be willing to be forgiven. So you keep showing up. You got to be willing to repair when you've broken things, as opposed to just denying it or trying to put it off on other people. When it was your fault, it's your fault. And I promise you, if it's your fault and you try to repair, you will not be repairing it by yourself.
Yeah.
Once you start trying to fix that
genuinely
fence, people will show up around you.
Right, with a good heart, with good intention.
To help you take the step.
Yeah.
But if you always denying where you've broken things, ain't nobody gonna help you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's excuses and
And it takes time for you to show up to present as someone that can be trusted to make a mistake and repair and take responsibility.
Man, I wasn't gonna say this, but I used to. I'm in the wedding industry heavy, right?
Okay.
And one of the things that separates us from our competitors is not that we're perfect, because weddings, things go wrong. That's just the nature of the beast, right? Things go wrong. People laid hair, this, that, whatever, right? I mean, one time I actually had to serve as an officiant because the officiant didn't show up, right? Things just happen.
Really?
Yeah. Never officiated a wedding a day in my life, but I've seen thousands of weddings, man. So I pulled a little script up. The bride was shocked to see me up there when she. But I like to say this: things happen. And the thing that separates our company from other companies is not that we're perfect. It's just that we're good at fixing things. We're like professional problem solvers, right? And we're able to run with the punches and roll with the flow, even when we're the ones who make the mistakes.
Man, you're making me think about my friend Pookie. master pianist, who told me one time, man, you really don't find out how professional a person is until the mistakes happen. The mistakes are when you find out who the pros are, because it's how they respond in those moments. Or my friend Tina Campbell, she said, when you're Tina Campbell, Mary, she said, the mistakes don't have to be mistakes. It's how you respond to them in the moment on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
You can, the pros flow into the mistakes and make them work for themselves and the audience. So you're not disrupting the flow. Life is filled with moments. Swift transition, if you will, from my tradition, where you can demonstrate that we're not going to disrupt the flow. In fact, we're going to make this work for us. When the wine ran out at the wedding and someone had to step up and show up with a miracle, here comes Jesus, who says it's not yet my time, but did it anyway. And now we got a story to tell.
Come on. And that was a mistake.
That was a mistake.
A mistake of all mistakes.
That was a mistake.
You don't run out of wine at a first century
That's right.
wedding.
Yes. Talk about it.
Come on.
Could have brought shame to everybody there. And then Jesus shows up in the moment. And so we all have, I'm telling you, we all have these opportunities. That's why I love basketball, because that's what basketball is about. It's filled with mistakes. How do we respond in the moment that keeps everyone engaged and focused on the same goal?
Man.
Hope for grace to see it and plant seeds towards it. And I'm telling you, I keep thinking about your audience. I know you're anxious right now. I know you feel like you may feel like I don't have enough to make it. I'm looking at people around me that are looking at me with suspicion and doubt because I took some steps that they don't understand. Take these 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread and put them in the master's hand. Keep showing up, and do not let shame keep you from showing up fully and honestly in these moments. And I promise you, the living sacrifice that you present yourself as is going to be a miracle and a story to tell, and a story that's going to make you cry in public.
Come on.
In ways that it's going to be like, man, why is he crying again? Again?
What's the
God
Bible
has
say?
been so good. God has been so good. You asked me about my favorite song. I will see.
Yeah.
I will see the goodness of God in the land of living.
That's it.
So I wanted to make this extension. Well, if I'm going to see it, let's start with me being it first. I'm going to be the goodness of God in the land of the living, and then trust that being it in the moment is going to help me see it all around me.
Yeah.
Be it in the moment. Be it in these church settings that you might be in. Be it in your community right now where you're like, man, if I could just get over here. I'm telling you, the grass is not greener. You're going to get over here, and you still going to have to be it to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it now. Practice it now.
Even in the midst of those mistakes, too. Because what's the Bible say? In our weaknesses, his strength is made perfect.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So that no man can boast, right?
No man.
So I see that all the time. For those of you just tuning in, I got my homie Brian Courtney Wilson.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying?
Party.
Let's go, baby. Oh, you're rocking with the Still Safe Show. We are having a time of our lives talking about these transitions.
There are days when I've been anxious because I didn't have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't see where this action is going to connect to this outcome necessarily. And this walk of faith, with this walk of faith, you're not always going to get that. The opportunity to make that connection. In fact, if you require that that's made, you're going to miss the blessings that God really has for you.
Yeah. Because
they exceed you being able to confine them to a plan sometimes. That's not to say you don't plan.
Sure.
And you don't strategize and you don't discipline yourself to be ready in moments. But a lot of stuff you're going to be called to are bigger than what you could have imagined.
I can't take credit for this. I stole it from Dr. Tony Evans. But he used to always say that God is like the rudder of a ship, and he can't steer an immobile vessel, right? You got to start moving.
You got to move.
And God will take you in the directions that you need. And that stuck with me for years. Like sometimes I don't know which way to go, right? I'm like, all right, let me just get started.
Right.
God, I'm trusting you.
Right.
That you going to point me in the right direction.
That's right.
And if I do hit a wall, that's fine. There's enough grace on both sides. And he'll help redirect, like GPS. You know what I'm saying?
And you're going to hit a wall.
Oh.
And you cannot let hitting a wall make you think that that's a reason to stop.
Yeah.
You got to endure that. That's kind of what Monday's pain is about. Like there are times when you feel it, and the feeling it is fueling you.
Yeah.
And when you stop feeling it, you wonder if you're still doing things the right way. And I'm saying, nah, you just got to walk through that, endure it.
Yeah.
And some of that is.
I mean, that record right there, I wanted to ask you about that because Monday's Pain, not only was it like brilliantly written, like it was like poetic almost. Like I wrote it down, like my Sunday joy is Monday's pain.
Yeah.
And the thought of Wednesday brings Tuesday where I just sleep in.
So
I'm like, man.
I used to think it was about church.
Come on.
Like, I thought it was, I'm talking about how much I've been in church and it seems like a show.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get to something real. And now I know that it was really about depression. And it's really about dealing with the lows of the feeling, the weight, the heaviness you might have sometimes on that Monday, right? Devoid or separate from the euphoria that comes from some of the things we participate in and do. And that was, I wrote that song almost 20 years ago. I pulled it out. I pulled it out today because I don't think we talk about it enough in our faith community.
Yeah.
That people are going through that people are smiling in your face and then going home and not knowing how to move forward, not knowing why these tears are there.
And you say that in the song too. It's like it hurts sometimes and I just don't know why.
I don't know why.
And sometimes we don't, right? We're like, man, why do I feel like this?
That's the first time I've ever said that too. So that came out of the moment. So, because I wanted to re-record the song and I said that in the moment. And I'm so glad I said it because that's how it is felt.
Yeah, tears I can't explain.
And I used to think I had to.
Yeah, exactly.
And because I couldn't, that filled me with some anxiety. Like, I'm trying to figure this out. And I'm saying, I don't know that you need to figure it out all the time.
Yeah.
But you do need to keep going. Keep going. And you got to keep going in ways that protect your heart from condemnation and protect the people around you from being hurt by where you are in this moment.
Yeah.
Be kind, be gentle. Learn how to create some space so you're not hurting people with this pain that you can't explain. You hear what I'm saying?
Hear you now. I hear you now because now it can become destructive.
Yeah.
Now it can, we're not telling you to be shameful about your pain, but if it goes undressed, it can become very problematic.
Yes.
Unchecked.
So, gentleness, man, and kindness, and I know cats sometimes that I've known them to snap, and then when they snap, they don't know how to be honest about you snap, you snap, right? Yeah. So they never really address it. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying slow down a little bit and at least try to, man, my bad. I'm going through right here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because people got space for that, but they don't have space for you acting out and then you never really acknowledging that you acted out.
Right. Man, come on, Brian. Like you way too much in my business right now, man. Like you got my ring light password at the crib security system. I'm telling you, speaking directly to my existence right now, man.
Because people say, man, you can't keep saying sorry. Well, why not? You gonna keep making mistakes?
I've been there though. I've been there where I've made the same mistake, not intentionally, not out of a place of pride or ego, just like really trying to do right and somehow managing to do wrong. Right? Paul even said it. Right? No matter how much I try to do right, somehow I got this thorn in my flesh. I always end up doing the things I don't want to do. Right? It happens. Right. And so, but not wanting to say sorry all the time because like, oh, sorry don't mean nothing. It's just a word. And it's just like, dang, man. Like, okay, well, what you want me to do? Just like not acknowledge the fact that I messed up and try to fix it?
Well, and I'm not saying this is an answer. I'm saying
we just talking
I've been
now.
Thinking about it. I've said sorry before, and then implied in the sorry was I'm not gonna do that again. And what I've learned now is that, okay, man, I apologize. I'm probably gonna do that again because I didn't know that I was gonna go there this last time. And I'm gonna tell you the difference is once I acknowledged that, it does start to slow down.
Yeah.
Once I admit, like, man, I don't know why I'm doing this. I haven't really gotten to the root of it, is when I start to get to the root of it. When it starts to slow down a little bit, and then it doesn't happen as much.
Yeah.
Or I make room for it to happen. So when it does, people are not so jarred. You stayed in community long enough where if a mistake happens, they've already have a surplus of grace when it happens.
we got this
Right.
bank of grace over here because
For
we know
real,
Brian about to do some things.
because we know you.
Yeah.
And we know what we love about you. We
That's
know the
why
value
my
you
mother-in-law
bring.
always be saying, "No, I'm just playing."
We love you. And so, man, this is important. Some of your anxiety is about you trying to be perfect
Come on.
in community. And I'm telling you, you don't have to be perfect in community. You got to be fitted in community, which means being real about your strengths and your weaknesses.
Come on.
Being real about your joys and your pains. I'm not saying tell everybody, but be real to yourself at least. Being real about the great things you bring to the table, and then some of the habits that you haven't quite overcome, so we can make room for your mistakes.
Yeah.
And maybe undergird you, so we all can fit together
There we go.
and see God together. There's a guy, his name is escaping me now. He calls it a mosaic, where we are these pictures making up this beautiful mosaic, glass stained mosaic, where the light can shine in and we see something beautiful. I've heard other theologians call it the multitude.
Yep.
Where we all fit together strengths and weaknesses and have the grace with one another, not to say, well, you're disqualified because you're doing this. You're disqualified because you're a part of this. No, we're going to make room to see God together.
Come on.
And acknowledge that I may not be able to even see God clearly unless I make room for you.
There you go. Because we are the body, right? Some of us are the hands, some of us are the feet. Can you imagine the arm telling the leg, I don't need you, or the eyes telling the nose, I don't need you? Like, we all serve a purpose, and together we are fully human.
That's it.
Fully human.
That's it.
So when we all bring our gifts and talents to the table, that's when the body can really, really benefit and reap a harvest. I got one more song for you. One more song. We went off on a tangent, but that was a beautiful tangent, man. I love it. One of my favorite records on the